All right, we got the great Joel Klatt. You find him every week on Fox. He's calling a big game, and he's got the Joel Klatt Show. Joel, great to have you, brother. Especially during the season, during the grind. This football season so far, like when I say that, like what comes to mind? What does Joel Klatt know now? 5 weeks into the season that maybe you didn't know before it started.
That I was a idiot at the beginning of the year, and I picked Clemson to win the national championship.
Guilty. I'm with you.
Oh,
I did too. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Obviously a little tongue in cheek there, but it speaks to what I actually think has been so great about the season. I think we've got real parity in the sport for the first time that I can ever remember. I legitimately look at the top 12, 13 teams, and I'm like, any one of them can beat any other team any given Saturday. And I think that's a great thing. And we haven't had that for a long time. For so many years, as you know, it was like, oh, well, it's Bama and Clemson, or Bama and Georgia, or maybe Ohio State was thrown in there. But we knew the national champion was going to come from one of those 2, 3, maybe four places. LSU joined that mix, obviously, in 19. Now, I legitimately feel like any one of these teams, if health breaks their way, the right turnover game breaks their way, that they could go on and win the national championship. And to me, that's incredibly exciting. So I think that we're set up for maybe the best 2 months of college football that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so great not to know, like not to go into games going, this is going to be beatdowns. Like we saw that for so many years, the uncompetitiveness. So you talked about national championship contenders, Big Ten. How many do you look at now, this into the season that you're like, all right, like, yeah, I'm checking that box. I mean, I think they could be a national championship contender.
People would think I'm crazy. I have 4 that I think can compete for a national championship, and maybe a 5th. We'll see here in the next couple of weeks. I think it's pretty clear Ohio State is up there, and I think it's pretty clear that Oregon and Penn State have played at that level, and they've been there. So those 3 are just the teams that I think that we know. What we saw last week from Indiana was pretty eye-opening for me, David. The way that they went about dismantling Illinois, the efficiency that their quarterback played with, the balance between their run game, running it for 300 yards, and being able to throw the football like they were able to do. He only had 2 incompletions. That was eye-opening to me. So I think Indiana is actually a much more scary team than people are giving them credit. That's the 4th. And then the 5th, I would just say, watch out for USC. USC is very much in the mold of what Lincoln Riley's teams were when he was at OU. They run the ball well with balance. They're actually number 1 in the country in yards per play at just over 9, which is exactly what they used to do at OU. They've got a defensive line that is actually really good and has 16 sacks on the year, one of the best pass rushing teams in the country. And so quietly, as a very underrated team right now, ranked, 21 in the country, I think USC could surprise some people. They've got Illinois this weekend. They've got Michigan coming up. They've got Notre Dame. They go on a little bit of a win streak, and I think everybody around the country will have their eyes open.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that, like I feel like Lincoln Riley made a very tough decision a year ago when he said no to Miller Moss. And now you look at the 2, and he said yes to Jaden Maeva, and look at the 2 playing. And you saw him make a lot of mistakes because he's a little bit of a gambler. He's from UNLV. I guess that comes with the territory. But like he definitely threw, too many interceptions. But now he got that experience. And I think that was a big reason why now you've seen him come into that mix. You mentioned Ohio State. Like we saw them play Texas week 1. There's a ton of arch reactions. And I know you don't say things just to say things. That's not who you are, which is one of the reasons why I love, the way you do your work. When you look at Arch and when you saw him against Ohio State and just moving forward, like, where is he? Like, is he closer to that Heisman Trophy that we talked about? Or is he, several notches below and he's going to have to prove it along the way the rest of the season?
Well, I think that there's an old adage in really everything. And my dad used to say this, and some other great leaders that I've been around. They say, crawl, walk, run. You got to crawl before you can walk. You got to walk before you can run. And I think all of us were picturing Arch running into the season as a Heisman front runner. And he just needed to learn how to crawl first and be a starting quarterback. And the few times that we got to see him early last year, it looked good. and he had a great team around him. And so we thought, oh man, this is, they're going to be boom. They're going to be take off like a rocket ship. And what he had to learn is you got to go out there and you've got to really learn how to play the position. And we're seeing him do that in real time. And unfortunately for him, we don't give players time to do that, in particular when their last name is Manning. I've seen early in this season a player that is not on the same timing as the rest of his offense. So for whatever reason, now you can say that the concepts and the spacing and the pictures are late or he's rushed, but he was always out ahead of it. So David, he would come out, read 1, and it wasn't developed yet, and he was already to 2. And I was like, oh, okay, something's wrong right now. I always think, and certainly Sark would be coming from this background, that the timing of the offense is kept in the quarterback's feet, and his feet were rushed. And so because he was rushed, he was too quick. And when you're too quick, you rush your throw, your arm angle is bad. You step out and you get out away from yourself. You're generally overstride, and your accuracy dips way down. So at some point, and I said this last week, he's going to figure out the timing. It will click. The pace with which he needs to move, play with his feet, is going to click with the picture around him, and it'll start to look a lot better. And I think that we saw some of that against Sam Houston last week. It'll be interesting to see how he's able to continue to develop as their competition rises. But he's certainly a guy that I would still be optimistic about. We just need to go back to that equation: crawl, walk, run. He's still learning to crawl, and then he can walk, and then maybe someday he can run.
So he needs more of his uncle Peyton with the feet and shuffling the feet. Because you're right. Like I see that, and I see, looking here, going to here, and then doing it with his arm, sidearm, and not being in rhythm. And so obviously making, some mistakes. A guy that I haven't seen take a next step either. And there's plenty of guys that we talked about before the season and where they're at. Like Drew Aller, watching him, I kind of think, I feel like it's a little bit of Georgia, Gunnar Stockton before the Tennessee game, where I know Colton Necky ain't showing us everything. That he ain't doing that. Yeah. He's being very basic, but I haven't seen Drew Aller look really sharp. I haven't seen him look elite. They haven't asked him to do a bunch. They don't ask him to do a bunch, but is this the week now where we see the best Drew Aller against a good Oregon team at home with all the experience? Does Penn State come? Because, Joel, there is a lot of this. And, man, I don't get into if it's not now, then when. But, gosh darn, man, all the experience of Penn State. You got one of the best 1-2 punches of OCDC in the country. It's now, man. You're at home, white out. Penn State, come on, man. Come on, James Franklin. Big game, right?
So there's a lot there. I've been disappointed in Penn State, to be honest with you, early this season. They have not earned the right, and I say this, with all due respect, to just have the benefit of the doubt, because there are things that we haven't seen from them. 2 very specifically. The first is they do not beat top 10 teams, and in particular in the regular season. In fact, their only 2 top 10 wins of recent vintage were against Boise, which is, again, a group of 6 team in the playoff last year, and Utah in a Rose Bowl a couple of years ago. So postseason games. In the regular season, to see them beat a top 10 team, you got to go back to 2016. It's been 14 straight regular season losses versus top 10 opponents for Penn State and James Franklin. So that's number 1. And number 2 is, I haven't seen you dominate with the passing game regardless of opponent. And at some point, I can't just say, oh, it'll be there next time, because I haven't seen it at all. What's a great example of this? I didn't know what Ty Simpson was going to be able to do until all of a sudden they get away from Florida State, and then Bama starts really throwing the football really well, and he looked great against Wisconsin. So now I have some level of comfort saying, okay, with Georgia's defense struggling against the pass against Tennessee, maybe Bama can throw the football on them. We saw them do it last year, and maybe Ty Simpson and those guys can get loose in the passing game. Maybe, okay? At least there's some level of I've seen it. With Penn State, I haven't. You realize the last big game we saw them play was that national semifinal. They had 0 catches from their wide receivers. Zero. They've tried to rebuild that room. And they have to have a threat on the outside, or they will not be an elite national champion winning, Big Ten winning team. And so at some point during the opening part of the season, I thought to myself, we're going to see it in one of these games. They're going to throw for 350. They're going to throw for, we're going to see it. And then we didn't. And now we're going into Oregon. I can't just trust that I'm going to all of a sudden see something that I have not seen. And so for those reasons, like, I get concerned with Penn State this week against an Oregon team that, by the way, I think is really talented.
Yeah, I heard you talk about Oregon a little bit, so we'll go there next. Like, to me, if Oregon wins this game, they're doing the Conor McGregor walk. Like, they're walking into everybody's – because they just walked in the Big Ten and just said, this ain't that bad, bro. Like, we haven't lost in the regular season. We won the league last year. Like, I'll come to Penn State with all this experience, all these guys that are back that came – like, we just replaced 18 starters, and we just come in here like strutting our stuff. Like, I mean, but what do you think about we don't know a lot. Listen, both these teams played a preseason schedule. Like, we're out of the preseason now, but like Dante Moore, this offense, the weapons, the defense, like I feel like you said you thought Oregon was pretty elite and near the top and could win a national championship.
Yeah, I still feel that way. I have one concern about Oregon. My main concern is their run defense, and that's specific to this week. And because I called the game against Northwestern, which they didn't play great up front. And as you know, to me, it's like that should travel every week. Like, a run defense, it doesn't matter. You play in the parking lot, you play in Neyland Stadium or in Athens or wherever. It's like, if you can stop the run, man, you can stop the run. It has to do with toughness. It has to do with being sound fundamentally. And when they didn't do that against Northwestern, it was cause for concern. And Dan Lanning knows it. Tosh Lupoi knows it. So they know that they're going to have to play much better in that respect against Penn State. But to your point, they're really talented everywhere else. Dante Moore is a sensational player. I know that people don't always watch West Coast football, but he is absolutely one of the top 3 guys for the Heisman Trophy as we speak. And he's got talent all around him at running back, at wide receiver. DeCorian Moore, that great recruit, he's really good for them. I think Oregon has, and I think Oregon has the ability to potentially win the national championship. Having said that, the most dangerous team is a team with nothing to lose. And I don't think they have anything to lose in this game. I think the pressure is all on Penn State for the exact conversation that we're having. It's like, hey, if not now, then when for Penn State? And Oregon, it's like, hey, like, this ain't bad. We already won the league. We can still win the league if we lose this game. Like, we're good. We're good, man. And by the way, they won at Michigan last year. The last time they went to Ohio State, granted, they weren't a Big Ten member, and it wasn't Dan Lanning, but Mario Cristobal went to Columbus and beat Ohio State the last time that they played Ohio State in Columbus. They beat Ohio State last year in the regular season. They beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. So they've seen all the big boys, and they're like, hey, man, we can do this. We can hang up here, and not only hang up here, but potentially dominate. So it'll be an interesting one on Saturday night.
Yeah. Let's go to some of the SEC matchups real quick too. Like LSU, Ole Miss, kind of weird watching LSU. Like, you just offense the last several years, like that's what you do. And now, like, it's a defensive school. It's a defensive university. Nussmeier looks pretty average, but going against Ole Miss, and as we all had it, Joel, preseason, Trinidad Chambliss, like that was of course, that's the guy that's leading Ole Miss in a high-flying offense.
Man, Chambliss is pretty good now. Like, what did he threw it for like 300 and ran it for 100 against Arkansas. Yep. Truth be told, and I get labeled an SEC hater, and like that's fine. Truth be told, I think Ole Miss is overrated. I think that they're more like South Carolina was overrated for a time from the preseason until they got beat. Ole Miss is not as good as they were a year ago. I think LSU is better than they were a year ago. And the reason is because they can play defense. Defense travels, defense wins games, and they've won 2 big games with their defense. I think that I trust that I've seen Brian Kelly develop an offense before. I've seen Nussmeier play at a high level. So I'm going to trust what I've seen prior, and that LSU will come out of this funk offensively. I would also mention Ole Miss is not Florida in run defense. Florida is actually a really good defense. Very good defense. They're athletic, they're tough, they're fast. And that's part of the reason why LSU struggled. Ole Miss is 121st against the run. So if you're wondering like, well, will LSU be able to run the football? They probably will run it more efficiently, maybe not great, but more efficiently than they did against Florida. And if you give Nussmeier just a little bit of a threat in the run game, I still believe that what I've seen in the past is going to show up. So to me, I could not believe that Ole Miss was favored by 1.5 points. You're probably closer to it than I am. I was shocked when I saw that line because I think Ole Miss is overrated. They struggle with Kentucky. They struggle with Arkansas. Arkansas just lost to Memphis. I'm like, what am I missing here?
Well, I'll say this. I think the shine of LSU too, though, when you see Clemson now go lose several games, it's like, was it that impressive? Because Syracuse went in there and beat them worse. They lost to Georgia Tech. So I think some of the shine off LSU, it's amazing to me that they averaged 4 yards a carry last year, LSU, and they averaged 4 yards an attempt this year. It is literally, I don't even know who Nussmeier is. The ball's coming out so hot. Now, Green coming back might help them a lot because he's 6'18" on the outside and he can go win some jump balls and they'll go quads and they'll split him out and take advantage of some matchups. But I'm interested to watch LSU. I think Ole Miss is better with Trinidad at QB because this allows Lane to really use his tempo. And because of his tempo too, man, he's in the headset. Charlie's telling him what he's seeing because the dude wasn't even there in May. Talking to Ole Miss's GM, they were like, we were kind of looking around going, all right, we need a backup. We ain't got a bankroll to spend. We've already spent it. So who do we go get? All right, this dude's really good. He won a national championship.
Ferris State. It's a kid from Ferris State.
He's a little undersized, but man, he can run the rock. And so this game will be so interesting. Another game, Joel, this is amazing to me. Kirby's got 19 losses at Georgia. A third of them, 6 of them are Alabama.
And although none of them have been in Athens.
No, none has been in Athens. So does that change your opinion?
100%. Because I will tell you this, Bama under Kalen DeBoer is really bad on the road.
2-4.
And looked terrible in some of those. It's not like they're losing overtime games or this. I mean, they looked uninspired against Vandy and lost last year. They got handled by OU on the road. And that was not a great OU team at that point. We know that their offensive line is decimated. They had their top 5 wide receivers out, and OU handled Alabama. Then they have the entire offseason to fix that, get refocused, come out with a renewed sense of vigor and purpose, and played awful at Florida State. I mean, awful. And in fact, save for what was it? A special teams blunder, the muffed punt,
the drop punt. Yeah,
that's not as close of a game as the score indicated, and it wasn't a close score. So Georgia runs the SEC. This league goes through Athens. This league goes through Kirby. Texas hasn't beat Georgia. I know Bama has beaten Georgia, but they haven't done it in Athens. So I like Georgia in this game. I was so impressed, David, when Georgia came back from 21-7 and Gunner started making those throws. That 4th down throw was incredible. That's going to give them, I think, a lot of confidence moving forward. It might not be their best defense that they've had. It probably isn't. But you still got to beat them in that conference. And to me, they're still the favorite. I thought that line was a little off, too. The way that Bama struggles on the road and Georgia plays at home, longest home win streak in the country, and they're only favored by 2.5. You're telling me I can take Georgia by a field goal and I'm on the right side of the bet? Well, of course I'm going to do that.
You would love Gunnar Stockton. He plays in my golf tournament every year, and the dude is an absolute stud.
Love it.
You wouldn't know he's there. He's the antithesis of wanting hype, wanting flash, wanting people. He just wants to blend in with his 1983 Ford truck that doesn't have air conditioning.
Yes.
He's just that kind of guy that you would absolutely love.
His teammates love him because of it. Dude, and that's something that team, to me, you don't come back in that environment. You've played at Tennessee. You don't come back in that environment unless you love each other.
No,
I know that no one talks about that. And for a couple of players to be able to chat like this, I think that's the unspoken, chemistry or whatever. When it's really love. Do you love your teammate enough to give it everything you've got in the face of adversity? Do you love this group enough? They showed me that they've got a tight-knit group that wants to play for each other and was unafraid of the circumstance when they were down 21-7.
Yeah, they go into halftime of the SEC championship game last year. One of the tight ends goes up to Gunner and was like, if you believed in you as much as we did, we ain't got no problem going and winning a national championship. Like, that's
What
literally what they
leadership
told
that
us.
is. That's
Yes.
incredible. What an incredible line.
Yeah, they love the cat. They love everything. All right, what's the one game this week that nobody's talking about that you're really looking forward to?
Oh, that's a good one.
I want to
Washington,
lead you.
Ohio State.
Yes, that's where I wanted you to go because I think Washington's really good, man.
I do too. I think the AP poll is just so bad. They didn't receive a vote. Washington didn't. Meanwhile, they've scored on 17 straight drives. No one knows that. Why? Because they don't watch football on the West Coast. Like,
do they have the best trio in the country of quarterback, running back, receiver?
I think that they would certainly be up there. And a trio that's better doesn't come to mind. Damon Williams is our quarterback. He's going to have Ohio State's full attention. You know, in fact, Ryan Day compared him to Kyler Murray. I think he can be elusive and he can be a threat with his legs. Jonah Coleman, their running back, is an excellent running back, one of the better running backs in the Big Ten. Denzel Boston on the outside. He's a terrific player. They've got the second longest home win streak in college football to Georgia. No one knows that. They've won 22 in a row at home, dating back to 2021. It's an environment that's going to be very difficult for a quarterback that's starting his first true road game in Julian Sayin. So there's a lot of things in this game that it's like, okay, like it gives you a lot of pause. It's an 8.5-point spread right now. I would consider taking those 8.5 with Washington because I think they're that good. Don't pay attention to the rankings. This is probably Washington is, I think, without question, the single most underrated team in the country because apparently no one watched them. The fact that they didn't get a vote in the AP poll is staggering to me.
Oh, it's embarrassing. All right, I want to start doing this with more folks, but I thank you for your time, man. Your knowledge obviously speaks for itself. You're one of the best at what you do, man. How did you get into this? Obviously, great player at Colorado. Like broke so many records.
You can't throw great around.
You broke like 40 records, bro. Like you did something right to be at Colorado and be great. So
I threw the ball at an option school. That's what we did. So it was I never studied to do this. I never thought that I would do this. I was an economics major. I thought I would be a coach, maybe an investment banker. So I started going into the investment banking world. And I actually was working at a REIT in Denver, a real estate investment trust, and doing some speculative real estate stuff with the company. And this is 2006, 7. In the meantime, there was a high school football analyst in Denver, Alfred Williams. He's a Super Bowl champion, played for the Broncos, and he was the color analyst for a high school football package. And he gets sick one week, and they had called me up and they said, "Hey, we hear you're in town. Would you come by and fill in on a high school football game?" And I was like, "No, thanks. I don't want to do that." And they said, "No, please, like we're stuck. Would you do us a favor? We'll pay you like $150. I was newly married at the time and I was like, done, $150. That's great. I'm in. I did that one game. David and the executive producer said, "I think you should do that more. I thought you were good at it." And so he started giving me more games. Real estate market crashes. I lose my job as an investment banker. And my wife, God bless her, she was like that tight end in that locker room. And she said, "You're going to go and make a career in broadcasting because I know that you can." And she said, "Go ahead. I don't care what you make for the next year and a half, 2 years, go make it work." And I got this really rinky dink radio show in Denver, kind of low rent. No one listened. And I started doing radio, and then my career just started to grow ever since then. But it was the faith that my wife put into me. And she said she saw it as a calling for me. And we both trusted the Holy Spirit and the will of God. And sure enough, here we are.
That's outstanding. And dude, sometimes it takes someone believing in you before you believe in you. And that's just a great story with that. Like taking an opportunity, like putting yourself out there, which isn't easy to do, man. Well, that's awesome. And that makes everybody, I promise you, want to cheer for you even more. But thank you so much.
One quick story, if you don't mind.
Oh, you got another one?
I've got one quick story. So when I was doing that radio show, they would sell remotes, and we would go out and do a remote broadcast. And they sold a remote to a Taco Bell, a specific Taco Bell, and we had to set up our own show. And so my co-host at the time, he was doing all the technical setup, and he was like, "Hey, you need to go and plug the phone line in." This is before like the internet was good enough to do it all via Wi-Fi and everything. So I had to go plug the phone line in so that we could be on the air from the Taco Bell. And then as he hands me this 100-foot phone line, he says, "Hey, make sure to tape it down so no one kicks it out of the wall and we go off the air." But the office was in the back of the Taco Bell. So I was on my hands and knees on a Taco Bell floor, kitchen floor, taping a phone line down to do a radio show that no one listened to. So trust me when I tell you, when I get to sit there and listen to the national anthem before the red light comes on for Michigan, Ohio State, or Ohio State, Texas, or some big marquee game, I think about being on my hands and knees in that Taco Bell kitchen floor. And I'm grateful and I'm thankful for where I'm at.
That's awesome. And I can't imagine they got many 99s for their health service at the Taco Bell. So
no comment.
That floor might be a little bit dirty. Like for a defensive lineman, it's one thing. For a quarterback, that's a totally different thing. So, hey, congratulations on all your success, man. Much more success for you.
I appreciate you. Thanks you, man.
Thanks,
appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you do.
Appreciate you, brother.